You gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. He looked good, Coach.
Oh, try it. Thank you.
Welcome to Off Day with Matt Randazzo here on a busy Wednesday in the Quad Cities. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It is Wednesday. It is Hump Day. Hopefully everyone is enjoying their week when it comes to the world of sports and everything in between. Getting you through your Wednesday. After today, the weekend is much, much closer. It should be a fantastic weekend when it comes to the world of sports. So we're really excited about it. We'll get you set for all of it. We've got another jam-packed show to get to today. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you for doing that. We appreciate that. If you're on YouTube, the chat is right there. Use the chat, jump on there, chat with us, give us your feedback on what we're talking about, questions for guests, all those kind of things. Be as interactive as you can with the show. That's on YouTube right now. If you've subscribed, thank you. If you haven't subscribed, please do so ASAP. Also, we are live on X as well. X has been very, very good to us as well. So if you're on X and watching this, we appreciate that as well. So a lot of good things to get to on today's show. That is for sure. We are also on all your podcasting platforms as well. So if you go to Spotify, to Podbean, to iHeart, to Apple, anywhere you get your podcasts, you put in Off Day with Matt Randazzo. You can check out the show today and all the other shows in the past as well. Also, a special welcome to our viewers in Central Iowa watching on the WHO streaming app. We're on there each and every evening at 7 p.m. So thank you guys for joining us as you do every evening as well. Good shows this week so far. Monday, we broke down that Iowa-Illinois basketball game between, or I should say with, John Bonenkamp and Tom Kakert on the Iowa side of things. My good friend Jim Matson joined me on the Illinois side of things. And then we did some Marksy Monday with John Marks. So that was Monday's show. On Tuesday, yesterday's show was one of my favorites I've done in quite some time. Great conversations. We started with Casey Kreider, former Central DeWitt standout, former Hawkeye, just got done with his 10th season in the NFL. And he has great perspective on 10 seasons and then obviously playing more. And so go check out that. Also, we talked with a redshirt sophomore now, soon to be redshirt sophomore, Angelo Jackson, former Assumption standout, a cornerback at Iowa State, just about the last month at Iowa State and what it's been like. So really good stuff from a really good young man, Angelo Jackson. Check that out. And then also yesterday's show, Kyle Huseman joined us to talk Iowa women's basketball and the long and treacherous battle between Kyle and X has been solved. Kyle got locked out of X about a month ago. And finally, last night, he's back on X. So welcome back to social media. I don't know if that's a good thing sometimes or a bad thing when it comes to social media and everything that goes on. But welcome back, young man. We've missed you, all of those good things as well. So hopefully that doesn't happen anymore when it comes to Kyle Huseman and anybody else as well. So good show today. A lot to get to on today's show. Coming up in a matter of moments, Scott Dochterman will join us from The Athletic. We've got a ton to talk to about Doc, or talk with to Doc about, if that makes any sense. So many things going on. Doc's heading down to the national championship game on Friday. He'll be there covering Miami and Indiana. So we're going to preview the national championship game. That's right. Indiana is playing for a national championship. Take me back 3 years ago. There's no way that's even in the same sentence, and that's what's going on. And they're the favorites to win, by the way, as well. So we'll also get with him and talk with him about the Iowa transfer portal, because Iowa has done a fantastic job adding 11 players, all of positions of need, all high-quality players, it looks like. So we'll get his thoughts on a grade for Iowa when it comes to the transfer portal. Who's going to impact the most next year and maybe over the next several years. So a lot to get to with Scott Dochterman. We'll talk about his Bears as well, a little Illini, all that, much more with Doc coming up in a matter of moments. It's also Wednesday, which means it's Jake Brend Wednesday here on the show. We'll talk Cyclones with him. Jake is in Lawrence, Kansas, where he just covered Iowa State and the Iowa State Cyclones lost their first college basketball game of the season. It was January 13th. That's a really good thing if you're playing college basketball and your first loss doesn't come until January 13th. So we'll get his perspective on last night's game. The women's basketball program, they've lost 3 straight. When Annie Brown is coming back, some football news as well. So Jake Brend coming up later in hour number 1, and then hour number 2, we're going to talk Bears with my good friend and former Quad City sports writer, Bobby Metcalf. When it comes to what I'm going to go through with Bobby is we're going to take the victory for the Bears on Saturday evening and compare it to great moments in Chicago sports. And he can pick which one weighs higher or ranks higher, I should say, in the big picture of things when it comes to Chicago sports. We'll also look ahead to Rams-Bears. That was a 4-point Rams favorite to start, already down to a 3.5-point favorite. So the money coming in on the Bears, it's a fascinating matchup. And of course it involves Matthew Stafford, one of my favorite players of all time. So we'll talk about that as well when it comes to this weekend's football with Bobby Metcalf coming up in hour number 2 of the show. We mentioned it, Iowa State losing for the first time on the season, 63-84 at Kansas. And then also another thing I want to talk about real quick before we get to Doc is the Illini football program announcing yesterday. We talked about it at the end of the show, but they announced yesterday that they are going to build a brand new video board. Now check this thing out. We got this from Illini football social media, and that's going to be the difference. You look at that, and it's going to go from what it was to 69 feet high, 250 feet wide when it comes to a brand new video board at Memorial Stadium down in Champaign. It'll be the biggest square feet, 17,315. The next closest is Auburn at 10,000. So nearly double what it is already. So obviously there was a generous donation to the football program already starting to pay dividends besides players when it comes to aesthetics and the fan experience down in Illinois. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. So a new look down in Champaign for football when it comes to a enormous video board. So anyways, we got a lot to get to on today's show. Thanks for joining us. You're watching OTA right here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities, and we got a lot to talk to when it comes to college football. So let's get right to it with Scott Dochterman. So we've got plenty to talk to about with the one and only Scott Dochterman from The Athletic. Thank you for always doing this. I appreciate it.
I'm happy to be on with you, Matt. I hope you're doing well, and it was good to see you have a good gig over at Iowa during the fall, and can't wait to talk with you more in the future about that.
We saw each other at Carver Hawkeye on Sunday, and the first thing I said to you, and that's what we're going to start with. I know there's the college football championship, and we got transfer portal stuff and a bunch of stuff, but bear down. How was your Saturday night?
I went through like the range of emotions that only sports fans can go through in games like that. I mean, I've been a Bears fan my whole life. My first game I ever watched, and I'll never forget it because I just this is what set me on the path that I'm on, was 1980 season opener. And it was when Chester Morkel from the Packers, it was 6-6 in the and went into overtime. The Bears blocked his field goal, and Chester Markle, the Packers kicker, caught it and then ran like 29 yards for a touchdown to beat the Bears in overtime in the season opener in 1980. And I'm like, wow, this is weird. I had no idea really what was going on, but through the years, the Packer pain that the Bears have experienced for 30 years, really, since Favre and then Aaron Rodgers, and dealing with all of that. And so you're already naturally anxious about playing the Packers in the playoffs. And then, you had the 2010 championship. You had Chris Conte, which was what I was fearing the most on Saturday night was, oh God, here we go, but to go through all of that and all the yelling and then to finally win, it was exhilarating. It was like, oh, this is what fans get to do. They get to cheer for their team and they win sometimes in the playoffs. So 15 years since the Bears won a playoff game. So it was awesome.
Doc, how many times have you watched the second half? I'll be honest, the Lions 2 years ago beat the Rams to win a playoff game for the first time in whatever it was, worse than the Bears. And I think I watched it that next week. I probably watched it like 10 times minimum. Have you gone back and it wasn't as enjoyable during it because of all the stress? Yeah. It's much more enjoyable to watch it again. Have you gone back and watched the second half? That first half never happened, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't watch the first half again. No way in hell. But I have not watched it in entirety, but I have gone back at least a dozen times on Twitter and stuff, and especially the Caleb Williams pass. Yeah. I mean, that was just the most incredible pass to see. He was off balance, his left leg sticking straight out. I mean, he looked like the Jumpman character, Jordan's Jumpman.
Yeah.
And then that throw to Odunze on the sideline was just, you got to relive that. And then, of course, the end. And I'll say this, because this rivalry is so intense, that I have taken a little bit of the schadenfreude of watching the video composites of the Packer fans going through their range of emotions at the end and breaking their TVs and punching the walls and stuff, and kind of like, yeah, I know how you feel. I've been dealing with this for 30 years, buddy. So.
Don't feel bad for the Packer fans. Like that that fan base is so blessed that like finally they get to deal with what Bears fans and Lions fans have been dealing with for so long. Scott, before we start talking college football, I got to ask you about this week. I don't want to say a football, like just everything I think I know about football. I'm like, boy, I think the Rams are the most complete team in football when it comes to the passing game, the running game. Their defense is good. I love their coach. I think he's fantastic. And I thought that kind of about the Packers too. And I watched it for the first half and I'm like, okay, but sometimes with this Bears team, you have to take, and just throw everything out the window because it's what they do. Your thoughts on the game on Sunday? I haven't made a pick yet because I'm waiting until Friday because I think the Rams win, but I can't pick against that team. Your thoughts on Sunday?
If I was to be objective in this, and it's hard sometimes to do that, but in this situation, I do agree with you. I think the Rams are as complete as any team there. I've seen Stafford, you're a Lions fan. I kind of have a soft spot for the Lions. And I've always had a soft spot for Matt Stafford because I thought he was a tremendous quarterback when he was with Detroit. And I think he's, has elevated his career to Hall of Fame status in Los Angeles. And I think he's the MVP this year. And that makes it, so if I'm objective, I think that the Rams are more complete on both sides of the line of scrimmage. I think he's obviously a more accomplished quarterback who's been in these situations far more great, more than Caleb Williams. But, this team has an it factor, and sometimes you ride that wave. And in the NFL playoffs, sometimes you got to throw out the whole, logic, because I look at the AFC and I'm thinking I would probably go with the two visitors this week. We might have the first time ever that you have a wild card team that actually hosts a playoff game, and since they went to 4 divisions, and that's Houston and Buffalo. I mean, I really like both of those teams, but on the NFC side, again, it's going to be really, really cold, and it's in Chicago, and the Chicago fans are at a fever pitch right now. And Stafford's been a part of that in different ways, but I think I think it's a coin flip game, and I think it comes down to the end. And will there be one more round of magic for the Bears, or will the clock strike midnight? I don't know. But and on the other side, I mean, how the 49ers are putting this all together, I don't know. It sucks that George Kittle got hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate that because I was with him during the draft. When he got drafted, I went to his house and I spent the second and third rounds the Friday night with him, and then he didn't get drafted that night. And then I came back the next day, was with him all day, and wrote about that. And
wow.
And so I've had a friendship with him and his family for a long, long time, and he's a fantastic person, player, borderline Hall of Famer right now. And I just hated to see the way his leg looked after he got ripped apart, the Achilles, and I just hope that. But Seattle's pretty complete. So I guess with the Bears, and this is how I would probably phrase it and end it, is I hope that we can enjoy the process of this week. And yes, I'm cheering for the outcome like you wouldn't believe. But whatever happens, it's been a successful year this year. But I also know from watching your Lions a couple years ago that really should have been in the Super Bowl. And Dan Campbell's one of the part of his body got bigger than his brains. And it's like, don't think that, oh, well, it's automatic next year. It's going to happen, because it never is automatic.
Yeah.
So I think don't take it for granted, enjoy it, but also if this is your opportunity, max out, because it doesn't happen very often.
I tell people all the time, even when the Lions lost last year and they were 15-2, and while I enjoyed the heck out of the season, the injuries and the Hutchinson stuff, I was always in the back of my mind. I'm always like, I don't know how long it's going to continue, because eventually it's going to catch up. But with that being said, because of where I've been, and I went 0-16, Doc, I watched every damn game in that 0-16 season. It was my first year being married, and my wife's like, why are we spending $30 a month on the ticket when your team never wins? So I was like, that's a good point. Just because of where I've been and where maybe Bears fans have been too with the Bears, like, just enjoy it. And I wasn't that, like, I was upset and I was disappointed, but I wasn't a 12-year-old breaking anything or anything like that, because I think you kind of, when you go through the yuck, you enjoy the good times a lot more. And I think Bears fans need to enjoy the heck out of this week. I think it's going to be a good game. You're right. It might not be a blowout by any stretch of imagination. It's going to come down to the wire, and it should be fascinating theater in Chicago. I hope you just relax. I feel for Bears fans. I did it. So relax, all those kind of things. Let's get to some college football, because the transfer portal is crazy. I want to talk about the championship game in a second, but the Iowa Hawkeyes have landed 8 transfers. And I think when you look at the list, you're like, wow, they knocked off a bunch of them. It was funny last week, because we did a show on Friday from Godfathers, and Tommy was there, Kakert, and we were worried about wide receiver, and this was at 11 a.m. And by like 2 p.m., they had one in Tony Diaz, which had an Alabama offer, and they had another one coming in the weekend that ended up committing as well. How would you grade the Iowa Hawkeyes, Kirk Ferentz, Tyler Barnes, when it comes to the transfer portal and how they've done so far this year?
Yeah, I mean, now they're up to 11, Matt. So, I mean, they've really hit it hard. And I would give them a really high grade. I mean, I want to see it on the field before I give them the official grade, but we're not going to do that in the middle of January. So I would give them at minimum an A-. I mean, I think they've still got a couple of pieces left, but I think what they've done is they've hit a couple of important, impactful areas that they need to have on the field. And then they've combined it with players who have played at a lower level, who have the opportunity to grow and get better. And maybe if they're not starters this year, they can grow into starters in another year. So I think they've just done a really remarkable job. I mean, I look at, probably the 2 that I think, maybe 3 that stand out immediately. I mean, Kamari Brown is the guy that, he was at Elon, 12 sacks last year. That is, when you lose all 4 of your starters up front on defense, you need immediate impact. And, Bryce Stevenson will be back, and he's played a lot. But, even when you lose Brian Allen to the portal, Jeremiah Pittman was a graduate. I mean, they really needed some impact players up front immediately. And I think he's certainly that. He is one of the best. I mean, he was, a first-team All-American and led the CAA, his league, in sacks by 2.5. So this is a guy that's going to step in and immediately provide pressure off the edge. You absolutely need that. And then I also look at, the wide receivers, as you said. I think Tony Diaz is a guy who could be a perfect complement to what they have in the pass catching mode, which is, I think Reese Vanderzee is a budding star. He's proven it, when he got back after injury, he's made a lot of circus catches. I think once he smooths it all out and becomes a little more full service, I think he could be an upper level Big Ten receiver. And I think Tony Diaz provides the Z to his X, which is more of a move guy, but also can find space. I mean, 68 catches, almost 900 yards, 11 touchdowns. He was a freshman, first-team All-American. That is an impact player. And then Evan James from Furman, who's also a wide receiver that they picked up over the weekend, 65 catches, 800 yards, 7 touchdowns. So you're really getting impactful players immediately into that receiving group. And they lost a lot of guys there. But even so, we know what they've had at wide receiver, not since Amir Smith-Marset, Brandon Smith, Charlie Jones. Have they had guys who can really do much with the ball? So I really love those 3 pieces in particular. And then I'll add a fourth in LJ Phillips from South Dakota. And I think it shows that while it was a very productive running game, the line outpaced the running backs. The line was absolutely fantastic this year. And the running backs were good, but not – there was no Caleb Johnson, of course, but there wasn't really – I mean, Kamari Moulton was a good player, but LJ Phillips, who had almost 2,000 yards this year and really didn't become a starter until a couple of games into the season, 19 touchdowns, 20 overall. I think he could – he's 5'9", 225. I think he could come in and become one of the 5 best running backs in the Big Ten. So you've really impacted your scoring ability with 2 wide receivers and a running back who maybe all 3 can start or play a heavy amount of snaps. And then you have Kamari Brown as a pass rusher. And potentially I like Bryce Stevenson too. He's a 1-year starter. He is your filler. You've got to get him in and he's got to play. He's, whether he starts or he's just a heavy rotation guy, it doesn't matter. But you need somebody who's a space eater. He's a 300-pounder. And so I think those are the players to me that absolutely need to step in and start. And gosh, and I keep bringing these up. And there's one more that I think, that I do like, Anthony Hawkins too, who's a freshman All-American from Villanova, and 4 TFLs, 2 interceptions, long and lanky. And I kind of wonder, is he a safety? Is Phil going to look at any of these guys? He's brought in 3 safeties. Are any of them interchangeable? Can they flip outside? If you're 6'3" and 170 like him, that spells to me long-armed cornerback, but impact hitter. And if he can do both, I mean, you're looking at an elite level corner if he can make that transition, if they want him to make that transition. So I don't know. I mean, I really like these pieces. Yeah. I think that they found guys who have proven productivity. Are they they're not from major institutions, but look at Indiana. I mean, just about every single player on their roster. I mean, they've either brought them from James Madison, they're from G5 levels, or there have been a couple who, Mendoza aside, I mean, there's been a couple who've moved, like Roman Henby, running back, but he was Maryland. And I had a side conversation with Kirk about him. He's like, usually you kind of look at these guys and you think, they're really good or whatever. He goes, I didn't know how good he was until he went to Indiana. And that's kind of what you could project with these guys that you see is, when they get into the Iowa weight and conditioning system here in January, February, March, what do they do? What do they grow? And then be able to get into this system, which now is in place. It's year 3 of Tim Lester for offense. Can they step in as the receiver core with 2 quarterbacks who are going to be battling pretty heavily for starter roles? And can they make an impact right away? And I like their chances of doing that. I really do.
Doc, you look at it and you knew with to start the offseason, wide receiver was important. The defensive front was important because of what – I mean, you look at who they've lost, and then Brian Allen jumps in. And then Cohen Entringer goes into the portal. So you know that safety is important, and they literally hit all of those really, really well. I love the fact they're 2- and 3-year guys where they're not just – for the most part, they're not going to be here for a year and be done, and that staff gets to – coach and develop and do what they do best. But going back a little bit to, like, we talked last Friday with Tom Kakert, and it was like, how do you get a running back and or not running back, but a wide receiver? And Tommy talked about maybe an Iowa tax where Iowa might have to pay a little bit more because of the history around the position. And then Tony Diaz does commit, and everybody knew the Alabama offer was out there and all those kind of things. I guess my question is, how did Iowa land a Tony Diaz and the Furman wide receiver? Was it just they sold the program? There's a lot of people that have asked me how in the world they get that guy. Is there any thoughts to how that all came about?
I'm only speculating because I haven't talked to them specifically on this, but I would say that there are a couple of things. Yes, I'm sure there is an Iowa tax that you have to outpay somebody. I don't know what the amount is because it's all in flux, but I'm sure you would have to overpay a little bit for that position. And that happens in the NFL too. I mean, location, if you're in the North, or if you have a lot of heavy taxes in your state or whatever, that you do have to overpay. And I think that's probably the case here. However, when you look at Iowa averaging almost 30 points a game, Iowa was 54th in scoring. That's not low. I mean, that's way better than what we saw a couple years ago. And I think you saw an offense that is moving forward, that you see, okay, the breakout star was DJ Voname. I mean, what he did in the bowl game, what he did the last month of the season, I think shows that, okay, you've got a really good tight end here, a freshman first. He's going to be freshman first team All-American. And you have a wide receiver in Reese Vanderzee. You have an attack that is much better than what it was previously. And if you get those pieces, you can be part of this growth. And we want to do that. You have to express that. I hope they did, that we want to be balanced. We want to do these things. You're part of it. You're the reason. Here's where, and I know Tim enough to know that I'm sure when he talked to Tony and he talked to Evan, and he was just like, okay, here's where you would be in this offense. Here's where you would go. Here's where we would find you. And here's how you would attack it. And I'm sure that they saw that and envisioned themselves being part of it, and that the opportunity to play right away, because, you could have an Alabama offer, but are you going to play at Alabama? I mean, we don't know. Maybe you're the fourth receiver there. Maybe you're the sixth. Maybe you don't get to play. And then you're spinning your wheels, and then you have no leverage at that point where you did this year. Whereas you go to Iowa and you succeed, and, yes, the business is the business that, I went to Iowa, I caught 50 passes. Next year, I'm either going to make a X amount of money at Iowa or I'm going somewhere else. That happens. But don't worry about next year, this year. So I think they did have to pay a little more on that position, but whatever they did it, and good for them. And the smart strategy, as you kind of highlighted here, is only one of these 11 players is a one-year guy. And I think we saw it with Mark Gronowski for sure. And we've seen it with a couple other players that Mark Gronowski was so much better the last half of the season than he was the first half. It wasn't even close. And if you're Iowa, you're probably thinking, damn, I wish we had one more year with him. I mean, if they had one more year with Mark Gronowski, if he got to magically come back one more season, I mean, you look at this team and go, okay, he's a really good quarterback, and they got a really good chance. And I think there's some other players that kind of fit that mold. Jonah Pace was probably that way, and a few others. And so what they're betting on is, hey, these players are proven on the field. They've proven their worth, and now they come in, and we've got multiple years with them, because you don't want to just get 1 year and then, wow, they got better and then they're gone. You want 1 year they got a lot better, and then bam, next year is when they take that huge step. And I think that they've got some of their other players who kind of fit that mold too. I mean, one that I would kind of highlight is Trent Wilson, from James Madison, the offensive lineman. He was a true freshman, and he played almost 400 snaps. And, will he play next year? I don't know. I mean, offensive line is all about what you do every single day in practice and off season. But, he's got 3 years. And he's also got a brother who's committed to Oklahoma. He's pretty good too. And there might be some help there too. But I think there's if you bring him in, and he had a nice grade from PFF, he was on a playoff team, and he comes in, and maybe he's a rotational guy at guard. You got Cade Pieper on one side, or maybe Cade goes to center, and you need somebody to play guard. And then, man, you've got 2 to 3 years of this guy starting. That's what you want ideally. And then because you've just really elevated the floor of your recruiting. They only lost 8 players. That's the lowest in the Big Ten. And so I think that they've really done a really nice job, finding Iowa players and good athletes, but they've also stayed away from the catnip, is what I call it, which is somebody who went to Ohio State for 2 years and didn't do anything, but he was a 4-star. So, man, you got to have him. And we saw that with Caleb Brown a few years ago. It doesn't always work out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Scott Dochterman from The Athletic joining us right now and Off There with Matt Randazzo. Last stuff on Iowa transfer portal. Give me and we've talked a lot about all of them, but give me an impactful, the biggest impact in 2026, and then give me what player might have the biggest impact overall. And they might be the same guy. So, I mean, that's okay too, but give me next season and then maybe big picture wise of these 11, who has the biggest impact?
I'm going to go with Kamari Brown off the bat. I mean, we're always going to gravitate to offense, and they very well could have major impact. But I also know Iowa is and always will be, at least as Kirk Ferentz is, a defensive first team, and you need to be good up front. And I think he has the potential to really become an edge rusher. And Iowa's had some really tough dudes on the edge, but I think when you combine him with Yosei Epineza, who I think will be a breakout star next year, you combine those two off the edge with Kenny Merriweather, I think they could really be there. But I think Kamari Brown has the pass rushing skills that we haven't seen out of anybody else, and I think he can really collapse the pocket, disrupt the passing game in a way that will be noticeable right from the get-go. Long term, I'll go with Lance Ingold, from Northern Illinois, who came in. He's got 3 more years, but he's got a big frame. He's 6'5", 285. He's the type of guy that when he gets in the Iowa weight room and it's like, okay, now he's 6'5", 300, 305 maybe, or they cut him down to 280 and then he's 295, that type of thing. He had nice production there, 2 TFLs and sack and a half, 17 tackles, but, he could be a 2-year starter at defensive tackle. He could kind of a Logan Lee type is what I like about him. And as we know, Logan played a little bit with the Steelers this year. He was on the active roster, and he's from your area there. And I think I think if Lance Ingold can kind of perform those tasks, maybe this year he's a rotational guy, and then he becomes like a 2-year starter. That's exactly what you need, and that's why you grabbed him. And if he was one of the first that they got, and I think Kelvin Bell has a good eye for talent and guys who can step right in. So he'd be a guy long term. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Eli Zoic. I think that's how you pronounce it, from North Dakota State, the kicker, because you're losing Drew Stevens, who was really good for a long time, big heavy leg, and here's a guy who was 16 to 18 in field goals. He had a 54-yarder. He was a second-team All-American, and the thing is, with all these other guys, we're kind of projecting because they're lower-level players, and we think they can make that jump. Well, kicker is different. I mean, you just kick it through the goalpost, and it's not like, oh my gosh, they're magically bigger, when they're trying to block your kick, And North Dakota State's a good team. They were number 1 all year. And, yes, they got beat by Illinois State right there in that 2-point conversion play at the end. But he had to make some big kicks. And I think coming to Iowa, yes, it's outside and that's indoors, but you got to live in North Dakota. That's pretty cold. So I think I think that he could be a really big asset to where there's no drop off. And in special teams, Iowa can't have any drop offs.
Doc, I'm going to pass on Iowa State because we got Jake Brend coming up to maybe talk a little more Cyclones. Quickly, can you touch on big picture Illinois? Obviously, you can't get into like everything, but obviously it's a school that got Matthew Bailey back from our area, a big deal for that. They lose a lot of seniors. They've been active in the transfer portal. Your thoughts on maybe what they're doing or a philosophy for what Illinois is doing? You can see Kirk's philosophy, Iowa's philosophy when it comes to maybe lower level, really good guys, 2 or 3 years at certain positions. Does Illinois have a philosophy right now with how they're rebuilding through the transfer portal?
Their philosophy is somewhat similar. I like it. I think getting Jake Renfro at center from Wisconsin was a huge steal. Wisconsin, as we know, is floundering as a program. It's not even recognizable except for the logo on the helmet from what it was 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago. But I think getting him, he's a proven guy. He started at Cincinnati for Luke Fickell, went over to Wisconsin, started there, and now he's at Illinois. I think that was a huge pickup. Hauser at quarterback from East Carolina. He started his career at Michigan State. Heck, Iowa wanted him in the worst way before he committed to Michigan State. I think that's a smart move. I don't know. He's got 2 years. Is he Luke Altmaier? I don't know. That Luke Altmaier was a really good quarterback. And I think Illinois fans, when they look at the 30,000-foot view, will say, this is a heck of a 2-year period, when you can win, 19 games, which they haven't done anything like this in forever. And I think that's something there. Now, they do lose a lot, as we know. They lose guys like Xavier Scott and J.C. Davis, and the list goes on and on. Gabe Yakis, who's a tremendous pass rusher, one of the best in the country, and of course Luke Altmaier. But they also have some running backs that are coming back. Their portal philosophy seems to be similar to Iowa's, where they only took a couple of guys from major institutions. Wisconsin center, which a rival, and they plucked off the long snapper from Arkansas, and then the rest of them were from Group of Five or FCS programs. And I think that's, again, it's a smart way to work, because you're getting proven players at a lower cost, and you've got to make it all fit financially. Illinois, Iowa, everybody has to do this, and I think for a place like Illinois that has become, Bret's done a nice job of making it a developmental program, and having good pieces, and this is also, I think this is where Bret can really take it to another level, because when you have like a nucleus and a really good roster the way he's had the last couple of years, and then it leaves, what do you do to replace it? Well, he's had some nice recruiting classes, and now it's time to take that step forward. Can they, elevate themselves and maintain it? And so can he do that? I don't know. I mean, Iowa has a more predictive level of success over the years than Illinois, and they did lose some pieces in the portal that I think, like Eli Conan going to Michigan State, I think was tough, and I'm going to butcher this guy's name, Tomiwa Durajay, the defensive lineman, went to South Carolina. So there are some pieces that left. Jeremiah Warren up front on defense, but I do think that Bret has enough of a track record, good recruiting classes, and he's bringing in nice pieces to where I think that Illinois has a chance to, at minimum, be a bowl team. And for Illinois to go to bowls 3 straight years shows maximum progress for a program he's building, doing it the right way, with a philosophy, with an identity that I think he can maintain for throughout his career.
Doc, before I let you go, you are here with me now, unfortunately, but 48 hours from now, you'll be on a flight to Miami for the national championship game, and I know that's what you're focused on a lot right now. I'm like everybody else, where I'm like, this is just the coronation of Indiana as the national champion. Am I wrong? The line is 8.5 now. I've seen people say like that's silly. It's a national championship game. Miami beat Ohio State. People forget that. How do you look at this game as you get ready to head down to Miami? And not that you're just going to start there. You're already covering it from every angle. Where do you start with this game, and what are your thoughts on the big picture of the national championship game?
I look at this as with Indiana, first of all. There's not a more complete team in the country. They've proven it game in, game out. They've proven it in the tournament. They prove it in the regular season. And when you look statistically, they have no weaknesses. And when you look at the way they've played, there's not an area where you say, well, we can exploit that, or we can take that away if you're on defense and make them one-dimensional here, or if you're looking at them defensively, say, okay, I think we got a chance here if we attack this. There's none of that. So you're going to have to grind it. Now, Miami is capable of doing that, Miami does have a tremendous defense. I mean, they're number one in the country in sacks at 47. So they can get after the quarterback. And I think at times that Indiana, as good as it is up front, can give up sacks. It did against Alabama early on, a couple sacks early, and then they figured it out. And Indiana has a really good offensive line, but they really only have like one guy that I think is like you're projecting to start in the NFL right now. Pat Coogan's good at center, I suppose, but Carter Smith is outstanding. And so there's a chance that they could get after that, maybe slow the running game, maybe get after Fernando Mendoza, but you're going to have to do that for 4 quarters. You can't just do that a couple of series and take it off. But they are good line of scrimmage, probably better athletes, Miami. And certainly Malachi Toney is as good as it gets as a freshman wide receiver. He has 99 catches and could do it all as a quarterback in high school and everything. But they also have some significant deficits that Indiana doesn't have. I mean, like you look at penalties, Indiana's second in the country, 27 yards a game. They're at 57 yards a game. You look at a couple other major stats, like yards per carry on offense, they're 76th, and Indiana is 7th in the country in stopping yards, rush yards. So can they run the ball on Indiana consistently? They got a good running back in Mark Fletcher, but the way they attack the defense. So I guess I look at Indiana as much more complete. 8.5 based on personnel looks a little bit high, but it's also, I think Indiana's a touchdown better. And then do they kick a field goal at the end to win, win by 10, So that's the bet part of it. I like Indiana. I think Indiana is as complete as any Big Ten team to win the national title under this BCS/CFP era. And so, and that's strange because, I think they're better than Ohio State last year. I think they're better than Michigan 2 years ago. I think they're better than a few of the other really high-level contenders. So Indiana football, one of the great teams of the 21st century. Just boggles my mind.
And that's kind of what I talked to you about it quickly, because if I would have told you 3 years ago, 5 years ago, that you would be going to Miami to cover a favored Indiana team to win the national championship, what would you have said? I mean, and the history. That's one thing I love about you, Doc, is you know what's going on now, but like I love how you mix what's going on now with history. I mean, history's history. This isn't like a good story of a team that's been okay and now they're really good. This was an awful football program, and now they're playing for national championship. What goes through your mind when you think about that?
I finally have kind of gotten all the wow out of me. Last year was really wow. This year it was like, I've kind of gotten the stair step here, but you do have to take that step back. I think when it really kind of hit me was when I went to the Rose Bowl and I'm covering Indiana against Alabama. And you look at the histories of these two programs. I mean, Indiana was the losingest program in NCAA history until mid-November when they just didn't lose and Northwestern finally caught up with them. They were the first program to ever have 700 losses, and here they are on the cusp of winning a national championship, going undefeated 16-0, which hasn't been done in college football since 1894.
Wow.
So that is just remarkable. So it's really hard to get your mind around that. And if you were to tell me that some team in the Big Ten footprint is going to really, if you would have told me 2-3 years ago, one of these teams is going to just boom, they're going to arrive on the scene and they're going to win a national title, but it's somebody that you don't expect, I probably would have said Illinois, because I think Illinois still has a better infrastructure, or you'd think that it would, because of the size of state, Chicagoland, downstate, access to St. Louis, Indianapolis, whatever. But when you look at Indiana, they threaded the needle so well on elite coach. I mean, as good as it gets. And they took a chance. I mean, he was 61 then, he was 64 now, on a guy that had never coached at this level. I mean, he could have flopped. So many guys we've seen at that level flop, and then they come to this one. But they took a chance. Older guy decided to make that work. They, hit it at the very right time with the portal and NIL, because 8 years ago, when there wasn't any of this. They couldn't have built a team nearly this quickly, first of all. And it doesn't matter who you are. But second of all, are they going to be able to go in the Chicago suburbs and out-recruit Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan State, Northwestern for an offensive lineman or somebody like that? No. Let alone Michigan and Ohio State and Notre Dame. So they were able to, and then bringing his whole foundation from James Madison, supplementing it with the strategy we talked about with Iowa, with proven guys in the portal. And that's what they want, is somebody who's played, somebody who's experienced, somebody who can understand things, and then they'll adapt their skill set around how they did it. I wrote about Bob Bostad this week, their offensive line coach. He was the only one they retained out of the old staff under Tom Allen. And he's like, there's a lot of muscle memory that these guys have, they come in with. And so some of it, you just kind of say, okay, you do it your way. We're still pulling. But then there's other guys, that you're like, all right, we got to do it this way differently. But you throw that on with elite coaching, with development, and all these players have gotten better. That's something that shows up to me, is they were good when they got there. Fernando Mendoza threw for 3,000 yards last year. He became a Heisman Trophy winner, the best player in the country, because of elite coaching. And their scheme is somewhat like Iowa in that, just a grand strategy is a little simplistic. They do have some razzle dazzle, but they also have, but they're just so well coached, and they design it so well, like the passing scheme, the spacing and everything lets their guys get open. And then they have a guy with an unbelievable arm. His arm is off the charts. It's as good as anybody in the NFL. And so you combine all of that, one university, and have the backing because they have the finances. Yeah. And that's 8 years ago, you couldn't do that, Matt. You couldn't you couldn't just walk to a big donor and say, write us a check so we get a bunch of players. Well, you can't pay them. So what does that do? Oh, it gets us a couple of golden toilets in the locker room. It gets us a fountain with a new Nintendo or something. I mean, who cares? So now when you have a Mark Cuban, and Indiana has the biggest alumni base of any academic institution in the country. Wow. Because Indiana University and all the satellite campuses, it's the biggest in the country. So you have that alumni base that was always very passionate about basketball, shift over, be willing to pay for football, have the development, have the coaching, have the players now. It's here to stay. That's crazy.
What a fascinating story. Doc, enjoy Miami. I could do this for 3 hours. I can't do that to you. So I'll let you get out of here. Enjoy Miami. You can get all the Doc stuff on The Athletic, the podcast you do with Chad, and then also plug that, and then also plug your Twitter as well, because everything you need with Doc is right there for you.
Yeah, I'm at Scott Dochterman on Twitter, and it seems like by the day I have people who want to come at me over something.
I love it.
Mundane.
I love your responses are so dry and perfect, if that makes any sense. It's just, you're very like, well, then this is this. It's like me explaining to my kids sometimes, like, reality, if that makes any sense. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just take this little side venture. I mean, I hated it watching Iowa State fans come at me because I picked Iowa to win 10 games. And they're like thinking they're dunking on me. And I'm like, they won 9. Yeah. They lost 4 games by 15 points.
Yeah, you're way off. How dare you?
They lost in the final 2 minutes to 2 teams playing in the semifinals against one another. One's in the championship game. Oh, you got me. Yeah. I'm sorry.
You're almost wrong because they won like 11 or 12 instead of 10. Yeah. You're almost wrong the other way. So
right.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it.
And I'm like, guys, I also, I don't know why you're coming at me about Iowa, because I do CFP picks every single week for us, every week. And then I do bowl picks like from late October every single week. And I'm like, by the way, after they beat Arizona, I picked Iowa State to go to CFP. Why aren't you coming after me for this? And I don't want to be mean to Iowa State fans, but I'm like, guys, you're playing into the stereotype. Don't do it. You're playing Kansas tonight. You're number 2 in the country. worry about that. Don't worry about what I picked for Iowa. I picked them 10 wins. I got 9. Who cares?
I love it.
But you dunked on me. But yeah, and then you can find me at The Athletic. And Chad Leistico and I do the Legends and Listeners podcast, and it comes out every Thursday. This week we'll do it on Thursday morning itself. So, which we'll wrap. And I'll sit there and watch the Iowa men play Purdue, and we'll go from there.
I love it. I love what you do, Doc. I appreciate you. Enjoy the trip to Miami. We'll catch up again soon.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, my friend. That is Scott Dochterman joining us right here and Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We covered a lot. A lot of good stuff. So, and make sure you check out Doc when it comes to the national championship game. What a great weekend when it comes to the NFL, everything going on with that. And then Monday you get the national championship game. Indiana, a heavy favorite to beat Miami in the championship game. We got more to get to. Up next, we did a lot of Iowa, a little Illinois. Our weekly chat with Jake Brend, fresh off of Iowa State's first loss to Kansas, is right after this. You're watching OTA on a Wednesday. We'll be right back. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Here, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities. It's hump day, so hopefully you're enjoying your work week. After today, the weekend is right around the corner. A great week for sports, great time of year for sports, and it is Wednesday, so we do have a lot to talk about when it comes to the world of Iowa State athletics. And when we do those kind of things, we always turn to our good friend Jake Brend, who's joined me from Kansas. I mean, that's how hardworking you are, is that after you're covering the Jayhawks and Cyclones game last night, you're up early, working hard with us. How are you, my friend?
I'm tired, but I'm good. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be up and moving. I was reminded this morning why I don't have blackout curtains at home. Like I wake up to natural light and an alarm in the morning.
Yeah.
Today, my curtains were completely shut, and that alarm hit, and I thought I slept for 20 minutes. And it was one of those mornings.
You were probably like, stupid Dazzo, I could be sleeping another hour, but that big-eared idiot, no, I understand. It was funny because when I called you yesterday...
I was going to be up working anyways.
I didn't even know, like, for sure. I always check in with you on Tuesdays, and I hadn't looked ahead to the week. And as I texted you, hey, are you good for Tuesday or Wednesday? I'm like, oh, wait, it's Kansas, Iowa State tonight. So then it was like, this could be really cool. Like Jake's going to talk to us in the morning after a win at Falk Allen, and it didn't go that way. It's such a tough place to play. I think 2017 was the last time Iowa State won at Kansas. Just going in, and I think if you forget about all this stuff and take away situations, Iowa State is a better basketball team. And I know that sounds crazy to say after a 21-point loss last night. Situationally, I didn't love what Iowa State was faced with last night. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Kansas looked like they were the more desperate team because they are the more desperate team. When Kansas lost to West Virginia on Saturday, that was a bit of an alarm to me, just because you knew that like this was now or not. They were 1-2 in Big 12 play, 11-5 overall. They didn't really have a great win so far. Their best wins so far had been Tennessee and NC State. And similar to what you see with Hilton Coliseum 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, you know how much that crowd feels it when there's a top 5 team in the building. And you know how much more the crowd wants it. And I felt all of that. And I wasn't surprised at all to see Kansas come out and play as hard and as desperate as they did. I was more so surprised to see Iowa State not be able to match it, or maybe look a little surprised by it. And that's where I guess I came away the most surprised. I didn't expect them at all to get blown out in the fashion they did. And I didn't expect them to kind of get out physicaled and out hustled on both ends of the floor either.
You mentioned it, Jake, and it felt like Kansas was due for a victory, needed that victory, all of those kind of things. On the flip side of it, and this isn't a negative, but I'm always that guy that like some teams are maybe due to lose. It's so hard in college basketball, especially with the schedule that Iowa State has played. It's not like they've sat there and feasted on cupcakes all of November and December, and then now we're just getting into Big 12 play. You're going to have games like that on the road in this conference. I don't want to say they were due to lose, but it felt to me like, and you can learn a lot from a loss. Obviously, you don't like losing the way Iowa State lost in the maybe the margin of victory, but there's a lot to be said that you can learn a lot from a loss moving forward with this team.
Yeah, in a weird way, I think they needed one. I don't think they've played well since Purdue, like once. They struggled with Iowa. It was a great game, rivalry game. They're always going to be close, but they just didn't play great that day. They had a few cupcakes that, you know, I'll give them a mulligan for. Those games around Christmas and New Year's are so hard. But then to start Big 12 play, they've trailed 10 minutes into each of those games against very inferior teams. So they haven't played great in 6 games, and it is becoming a slight concern. But the analogy I would use, so Dazzo, take yourself back to high school or college.
Ooh.
And you're studying for a test consistently. And you do the bare minimum a couple times and you still end up getting a B or B plus. What are you going to do? You're going to keep doing the bare minimum. And one of those times you do the bare minimum, you're going to get a D. And then that's when you're like, oh man, I really got to figure this out. And you can compare that to Iowa State's slow starts, where it's like, oh yeah, we've come out flat. We're getting everyone's best shot. We're the number 2 team in the country, number 3 team in the country. But then we figure it out. We go on a big run, and that was not the case last night. And if that would be the best case scenario, it's that they realize we got to start the first half like we've been starting the second half. And if we can punch some of these teams in the mouth first, that's who we are. And that's not who Iowa State has been the last 6 weeks. And it's been uncharacteristic, and we'll see if they can snap out of it.
The only thing that made sense to me was Dazzo doing the bare minimum. Dazzo going to class in college, B plus.
Oh, that's why I brought it up.
B plus. I would be doing cartwheels if I got a B plus. That'd be amazing. So no, it makes sense. Iowa State fans, where are they at right now? Because
we had different college careers.
You look at it, and I don't know, was it around this time last year that you convinced me to wager all my wife's money on Iowa State making the Final Four? And because of that, we might have to get rid of a kid now. Was it around that kind of time? Where's Iowa State fans at? Because there's always those fans that look at everything so negatively. y'all are 16-1. You know what I mean? Like 16-1. But I'm look on social media some this morning, and it's like there's a few like, here we go. This guy shouldn't play. We're doing this again. Your thoughts on what happened last year and correcting things so it doesn't happen this year. I know they're two different seasons and there's reasons for last year, but thoughts on those kind of things.
Yeah, it's too early to panic. I think last night was a case of, yes, they played horrible. They played really bad. But I think as fans and sometimes even media, it can be easy to forget that the other team is playing too. And Kansas shot 50% from the field, 50% from three, 80% from the line. They had a role player make 5 threes a career high. They had 2 other role players step up. Like sometimes it's about the other team playing great. And Iowa State's been on the benefiting side of that many times where, yeah, they're a top 20, top 25 team. And one day at Hilton Coliseum, it all clicks and you run a top 5 or top 10 team off the floor. So it happens. And that would be my plea to Iowa State fans is, yes, there are concerning trends right now that you have to look at. The offense, like I mentioned earlier, it's just been a little lackluster the last 5 games. And there will be adjustments. What are those adjustments? But I wouldn't panic yet. If you look at this next stretch of 8 games, it's pretty favorable. If they drop 2 of those games, I think I'd be concerned. Just when you consider the toughest games you're going to play are probably at TCU, at Oklahoma State. So you absolutely have to go 7-1, 8-0 in that stretch if you're still looking to be in that 1 seed territory. But I wouldn't panic just yet.
It's funny because I just pulled up the schedule to kind of look. I knew it was Cincinnati next on Saturday, but Cincinnati then go home for Central Florida, to Oklahoma State, Colorado at home, Kansas State on the road, who's been struggling, Baylor back at home, and I think TCU after that. So you're exactly right. If I would have told you going into last night that Taman Lipsey and Joshua Jefferson would go 8 of 29 from the field, you probably would have said, well, that's probably not going to result into a good thing on the scoreboard. Those 2 guys, and I know they're a balanced team, and Iowa State gets scoring all over the place, so I'm not saying it's a 2-man show. And I would say in Iowa City, that's one of the biggest problems is they have to get more balance when it comes to that basketball team. But those are your 2 leaders. Those guys, that's so rare to see not one of them, but both of them have an off night, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say Momcilovic totally had an off night either, but you combine those 3, 11 of 39. And Momcilovic, he got a few shots, but for him, for me with Milan, it's not shots made, it's shots attempted. If he goes, I'd rather him go 4 of 12 than 4 of 6, because if he's being aggressive, if he's hunting, that's good for the offense. And that's probably one thing that you can drag into the slow starts. He's just not getting a ton of shots up around the start of the game. But yeah, if you had told me that Iowa State's big 3 is going to go 11 of 39 in that game, and Trey White, who's a good player, don't get me wrong, but Bill Self was asked last night, did you ever envision Trey White being this type of shooter? And he said no before the question was even answered. So like that was kind of the type of night it was for Kansas where everything was clicking and nothing was clicking for Iowa State. You burn the tape, but also you kind of have to watch the tape to not let it happen again. But you burn the tape, don't let it happen again, and you kind of take your one mulligan and move on, and you better hope that the team comes out and plays as desperate as Kansas did on Tuesday. You better hope Iowa State plays that desperate on Saturday, because you can't lose to Cincinnati, and you certainly can't let them get up early and continue the trend of the slow starts.
Quickly, I want to ask you about Cincinnati. You mentioned that it's on the road, so it's a road game in the Big 12. You never know. Obviously, talk about Cincinnati real quick. It's a game that Iowa State should win, especially after the performance last night. Kind of preview a little bit what fans can expect from Cincinnati.
I would compare Iowa State and Cincinnati basketball to Iowa Northwestern football, where one program, one team is clearly superior but they also play very similar styles, and it can make for some uglier than normal games. So while Cincinnati's not great, pretty much every Iowa State-Cincy game since they joined the Big 12 has been close. And granted, I think the talent gap has increased a little bit more this year, and Cincy is certainly reeling. I don't know if you've seen this, but they play tonight. I believe they play Colorado. One sec, let me fact check that. But they're doing a paper bag game because they're so fed up with Wes Miller and their administration for keeping Wes Miller. So
I knew it's been a struggle, but
their
I didn't
student
know
section
paper
is
bag. Wow.
Yeah, their student section is petitioning on social media for everyone to wear paper bags. So that's the type of team you're getting. I think if I'm an Iowa State fan, I'm reverse of Kansas, where when Kansas is playing Saturday, I'm like, man, I hope they win, because if they lose, they're going to be playing with their season on the line. I think if Cincinnati loses tonight, that team might completely quit. I don't think you want to give that team a little hope in front of their home crowd. Regardless of circumstances around it, Iowa State is so much better than Cincinnati and has to go win that game. And it's time for them to go play a B+, A- game, because it's been since Purdue since that's happened.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Jake Brend from the Cyclone Fanatic joining us right now and Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Women's basketball-wise, the Cyclones and Bill Fenley and company back at it tonight at Colorado. Losers of 3 straight. Addie Brown out indefinitely. Before we talk about the stuff on the floor, how is Addie Brown? What do we know about that situation? Obviously, Audie Crooks gets a lot of the headlines, and rightfully so, but Addie Brown really important to what Iowa State does each and every night.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good. Brown's out indefinitely with a lower body injury. It's been thought of to be a back injury, and it's progressively gotten worse. It sounds like there was something clearly bugging her when Iowa State went down to Houston and won, but Brown had her worst game of the season and then follows it up against Baylor and doesn't play great either. It's clear that something was bothering her. Fenley didn't sound too concerned. When she sat at Cincinnati, it sounded like, okay, we're just going to be precautionary, sit her a game. And then they did an MRI, and the verbiage since has not been great on, we're going to talk to her family, and the medical team's going to make a decision. So she's out indefinitely. I'd expect her to be out a month at least. I wouldn't say it's a guarantee she's back this season. I hope I'm wrong. I just don't want to build any false hope regardless. And I'd argue she's Iowa State's most important player, because she does everything. Like, she's the one who, I mean, obviously Audie is Audie, but Addie's the one who's getting her in position so many times. And Addie's the one who is rebounding. Like, she's the team's leading rebounder. She's one of the team's best defenders. So not having her, I think, has really shown up really the last 4 games, because you haven't had her at all the last 2. The 2 games before that, she was playing at 50 or 60%. And the team is not the same without Addie Brown, who I think has the potential after next season to be maybe a top 10 pick in the WNBA draft. Like, she's that good of a player, and she's been flying that much under the radar in Ames.
So with that being said, they got to go and figure out how to get back on track without her. Tonight at Colorado, losers of 3 straight is Iowa State. How important is this game? Obviously, it's kind of a dumb question, but it seems like that, I'm now on the road instead of at home, but kind of similar to Kansas, where you would expect a fired up, I don't want to say desperate Iowa State team, because they're still 14-3, but they gotta get back in the win column pretty quick, don't they?
Yeah, you need a win. And I honestly thought they played pretty well, all things considered, against West Virginia on Sunday, but they've got to find a way to get one of these games. Colorado is okay. I mean, they're probably a bubble team. It's always weird playing out in Boulder, playing in the altitude, but Iowa State's got to find a way to go out there and win, because you're kind of kissing away Big 12 title hopes goodbye anyways, and you're probably not going to play an NCAA tournament game at Hilton Coliseum this year. But at this point, you got to start stacking wins to secure a single-digit seed in the NCAA tournament, because it is going to be that hard to win right now with the injuries sustained to Addie and Ariana. So they've got to figure it out, and I'm guessing the guards will be pretty relieved to not be playing West Virginia, West Virginia is still playing West Virginia men's basketball from a decade ago, in the sense that they full court press the entire game, ultra physical. So I'll give Iowa State a mulligan for that, because you're throwing in a true freshman guard starting her first career game, and it's probably against the best perimeter defense you'll see all year. So hopefully a little less ball pressure can make the offense a little bit easier for Iowa State Wednesday night.
Absolutely. Jake Brend joining us right now on Off Day with Matt Randazzo. Football-wise, we had a great conversation with Angelo Jackson yesterday here on the show, a young man from Assumption. Kind of went behind the curtain a little bit about what this last month's been like, and he's a guy that's been on campus and is staying on campus, and you could tell he loves Iowa State, has loved Iowa State since the sophomore visit when he was younger. But to kind of hear some of those things, it's nothing different than I'm sure you've heard the whole time. I mean, they really, while they were sad for themselves for a second, they were really happy for Matt Campbell and what he's going to do. I've had somebody say to me, like, I don't get Iowa State because it couldn't have been that kumbaya where like everything moves so smoothly and the transition was what it was. It genuinely seems like that's the case. Angelo talked so highly about the new coach and Coach Rogers and his staff and all those kind of things. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to the interview at all, but your thoughts on hearing from some of the players now that of what happened the last month or so in Ames.
No, I enjoyed it, and I thought it was good perspective, and it's always important to remember that these are like people, and it's not just the quarterback. It's not just the running back who are going to new places. It's not just the offensive coordinator and going to new places and doubling or sometimes tripling their salaries. Like, there are walk-ons who truly love Iowa State, and there are lower level scholarship play, and there are second and third strings and fourth strings that want to stay. And I think that that's always good perspective to remember that this is not every player is making $1 million. And I want to say the statistic is that the average NIL deal is $7,000 per player, which, I mean, that's pretty staggering when you consider the numbers we've seen thrown around. There are a lot of people like you and me that grew up wanting to play for Team X, Team Y, and you just give anything to get that shot. And I know you were close. I wasn't. And it's still refreshing to see that is still throughout a lot of these locker rooms in college football, regardless of maybe what the headlines or what the mass numbers look like.
Absolutely. When you look at that program right now, we get an update every week, and it's so hard to get a full update because we would be here for maybe 10 minutes going through who's come and gone and all that kind of stuff, and mainly come now. But where are they at now, numbers-wise? What's next? What are they still looking for? I think we spoke last week, and it was, and I should know because his dad is the offensive line coach for the Lions, but Hank Fraley's son, the kid from like North Dakota, whatever, ended up going to Michigan State, which kind of is good news for the Lions because maybe his dad will stay in Detroit. He's a really good offensive line and had other opportunities last year. But where's Iowa State still looking numbers wise? How close are they to being filled up? Give me kind of an update on that kind of thing.
I mean, they're pretty close. I don't have an exact number because there is still there's a dozen players so far that haven't announced either way if they're staying or going, which in my mind at this point, I would just assume they're staying, but I can't confidently say that. So I'd say you've probably got anywhere between 5 and 15 spots to fill, but for the most part, you've almost got every starting position out of the way. So at this point, to me, unless a surprise player enters the portal before Friday, which is when the portal closes, they're pretty much done and kind of just filling out the depth at this point. They secured the running back spot with Cameron Petaway, the MAC freshman of the year. They got another cornerback with Seth Johnson from Montana State. So at this point, I'm kind of just anticipating you get some depth pieces where you look and it's, 4 years of eligibility left, redshirted at Washington State or something like that. So I think the hard part, maybe the dopamine part, is done for this cycle. Famous last words, I know. There will be a big announcement while I'm driving back from Lawrence today. I'm sure of it.
And a big one, too. Not just like, oh, yeah, we knew that. It was funny. Last Friday, we did a show from Godfathers in Silvis, and Kaker came out to be on the show, and he kind of talked about the wide receiver tax and Tony Diaz getting that offer from Alabama. And like, Iowa's got to figure out something. And then no more than 2 hours later after the show, it was like, Diaz is coming to Iowa. This has all happened. So that's just the way it works. You know that. Before I let you go, we talk Cubs a lot during the season, during the postseason, all that kind of stuff. I know you're not a Bears fan. I myself am not a Bears fan either, obviously. But during that game, it was funny because, you know, the Bears are down 21-3 on Saturday evening, and you look to social media and there's Bregman signing to go to the Cubs. And you're like, well, a lot of Bears fans are Cub fans, and that's maybe good news on a night that's been really bad. The Packers come back and win football-wise, but the Cubs get a guy. Your thoughts when you hear that the Cubs and Bregman come to a deal and there's a new third baseman at Wrigley Field this year?
I mean, I love it. You needed a guy who's going to step in 20, 25 bombs. You just needed that with losing Kyle Tucker. I think it certainly makes for one of the best infields in baseball. I really hope they don't trade Nico Horner.
They better not.
Keep Nico and turn Matt Shaw into some sort of super utility type player. See if maybe he can fit in left field a couple days. But other than that, like, as long as they keep Nico, I couldn't love this move more. It's a pretty team friendly deal. I know it's crazy to say that 5 years, $175 million isn't a ton, but in baseball terms, it's a good deal. I don't think it's an overpay. Might be making too much money in year 5, but you make these deals for years 1, 2, 3, not year 5. So I'm all in. I'm ready for pitchers and catchers to report. I mean, probably a month from today, right? It's usually Valentine's Day.
Yeah. They can't trade Nico. Like, why do they keep acting like a non-big market team by saying, hey, we did this, so now we got to get rid of something else that's nice? They got to keep Nico Horner, don't they?
You have to. He's the heart and soul of the team. Unless someone absolutely blows you away with an offer. That's the only thing keeping it from happening.
Well, let's hope that does not happen. Jake, enjoy your trip back from Lawrence. Is Lawrence, like, I've been there once on vacation, and that sounds weird on vacation, but we were in Kansas City and snuck out. Is there anything? I know you're a Cyclone guy after last night. Is there anything good about Lawrence, Kansas?
Yeah, I like it. I came as a fan last year, and I had a good time. The arena is always really, really cool. I don't anticipate doing anything fun today. Maybe I might go somewhere normal to eat on the way out, but I'd anticipate I'd probably just stop and grab a slice of pizza in the gas station. Get back to Iowa for real life.
That is spoken like a person who worked in the media for a long time. I appreciate you, my friend. Be good, be safe, get back safely, and we'll catch you again next week.
Perfect. Thanks, Dazzo.
All right. That is Jake Brend from the Cyclone Fanatic. And again, check out all of his coverage. A big game last night down at Fall Gallon Fieldhouse. He's still in Lawrence, Kansas, kind of recapping everything that happened. Again, the Cyclones lose their first game of the season. They're still 16-1. They're still really, really good, ranked second in the country. They'll get back at it again on Saturday. They welcome, or I should say they go on the road once again to a struggling Cincinnati team. We got more to get to. Up next, we'll talk a little Bears, and they got we'll kind of wrap up what happened last weekend. It's Wednesday. Bears fans have enjoyed the heck out of it, as they should. We'll kind of wrap that up and look ahead to the Rams this weekend. Also, how big of a victory, we've talked about it a little bit on the show, how big of a victory in Bears history was it? And in Chicago sports history. We'll talk all about that with my good friend and former longtime Quad City sports writer, Bobby Metcalf, right after this. You're watching OTA on a Wednesday right here in the Quad Cities.
Give me the keys.
Learning to drive can be stressful for both the student and, yes, the parent as well. Relax. There's an easy way to avoid the stress. Skiles Driving School in East Moline has been helping new drivers hit the road with confidence for over 20 years. Whether you're a teen earning your first license or an adult looking for behind-the-wheel training, we've got you covered. Their certified instructors are patient, experienced, and use modern vehicles equipped for safety and comfort. From classroom instruction to real-world driving, we make learning safe, affordable, and even fun. Call 309-278-0098 or visit skylesdriving.com. Skiles Driving School. Get in, buckle up, drive your future forward.
Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities. Wednesday is hump day. Everyone trying to get through the week because we're in store for another fantastic weekend of sports. And if you're a Bears fan, I can't fathom it getting any better than it did on Saturday. It was funny because I'm a Cub fan. I'm not a Bears fan. Everybody knows that, but I'm a Cub fan if I can go over the right shoulder. The World Series picture behind me. And I'm online. I think it was like halftime of the Bears-Packers game, and the Cubs make a big deal, and they sign Bregman. And I'm like, all right, for most Bears fans that are Cubs fans, that's maybe a nice way to get over the fact that the game wasn't going well, and then craziness ensued. And Bobby Metcalf joins me right now on Off There with Matt Randazzo, former great legendary sports writer here in the Quad Cities.
If you want to use that word, I'd say former, maybe on the way there.
Adequate.
Hey, present.
You were a sports writer in the Quad Cities. That's nearly like extinct now. So
that's true.
I don't say that. I love TJ, so I don't say that jokingly. I love all you guys and everything. So, Bobby, thanks for doing this. What was your Saturday night like? We've been on here before. We've talked a lot of Bears with you. What was Saturday night like for Robert Metcalf there in Columbus, Ohio?
It was weird. So I didn't want to go out, but the game's on Prime, and I don't have Prime, so I'm like, I have to go out. The last time I watched a Bears-Packers playoff game was 2010. Every Bears fan know it didn't go well, and it didn't go well for me at all because I was still in college and drowned my sorrows of that game. I was very nervous, just having flashbacks to 15 years ago. But I tell you what, like as the game's unfolding, yeah, that first half wasn't great, but I don't know if it's just the way the year's gone. 21-3 at halftime, and I sat there. I was watching it with anchors, and I turned to them and I said, look, I mean, they've done this all year. They've been a second half team all year. Like, I can't count them out. And then the second half happened. I mean, they go down, they make it 21-16. I then turn to them and I say, guarantee the Packers are going to come down and score a touchdown here because this is typical Bears. The defense finally plays lights out, the offense gets it close, the defense is gassed and gives up a touchdown. Sure enough, they do that, but the Bears figured it out and found a way to win. And it was just kind of like I'm happy, like I'm ecstatic, but I'm not used to it. It's just like,
hey, you're talking to a Lions fan. I spent the last 2-3 years going like, this is bizarro. Like, I mean, when the Lions lost in the postseason to Commanders, almost said Redskins last year, like I wasn't like, everyone looked at me and my family like I was going to be breaking things, and I was like, I was okay. And they're like, my kids weren't, and they're like, why? And I'm like, I'm just not used to good things happening. So like, this is okay. Like 15 wins and losing is not that big of a deal. Like this was fun. So I get it. I totally get that. Bobby, the way you look at that game, we're going to do a fun little game here. We're going to, in just a second, I want to do a little compare and contrast, but you look at that game and so many different things had to happen. You go back and I was doing it later, and I was like, if the Packers, I felt when they missed the field goal, that felt big to me. That felt like, like I don't know why. Towards the end of the half, not the big one late, but like even the one at the end of the half, I was like, well, I guess they're up and they haven't stopped them. And then when they got the stop so quickly in the second half, that's when I was like, you don't want to let this team hang around, because they do believe. That's one thing that about that city right now is you do believe in what goes on. But the missed field goal late, I look at it, and the Bears or the Packers scored to go up 11, and they missed the extra point, and I'm like, that's a big deal. And then they missed you look at it, they had an out route to Watson with like 2:30 to go or something like that. And you felt like you're good. And if you're a Packers fan, and just everything went the Bears' way. And it's like, there's teams like that. With all that being said, did you get done and go, wow, the Bears? Or maybe the day after, did you go, wow, the Bears? Did you go, oh my gosh, the Packers did that? Like, or was it a combination of the both?
It's a combination of both. I mean, did the Bears win that game? Yes. Did the Packers lose that game? Yes. I mean, obviously that's statement facts, but like the Packers did some questionable things there in the second half. They didn't play with as much of, I don't think as much of aggressiveness as maybe they could have. The Bears just kept just playing their football. Caleb makes some incredible throws. I mean, we can talk about that one on fourth down, but I was just kind of like, still like, that really happened. Like, I'm so used to watching Brett Favre rip out Bears' hearts. I'm so used to watching Aaron Rodgers rip out anybody's hearts. I mean, Bears' hearts, but I mean, and yet, so it's just like, I'm like, that really happened. Like, again, I have to remind myself, it's been 15 years since I've seen a Bears playoff win. Like, as good as I thought about the 2018 team, like, the extra team, so it was they didn't. That was their first game, was the divisional round, and they lost that game. I think it was the divisional. Maybe it was the wild card. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Like, they lost that game, and like, but I had so much of feelings of that team. Like, oh, that team was so good, and like, they didn't win a playoff game that year. So it's just like, I can't believe it's been 15 years, and it's just wild. And I'm like, yeah, I haven't been watching meaningful Bears football since I was in college, which is just weird to think about. So it was kind of like I don't want to say like I was like, man, the Packers blew it, because I don't think the Packers blew it, but I think the Bears they've done this all year, and they can't sneak up on teams. I mean, Matt LaFleur at halftime said, "We know this team does this. We know this team is a great second half team. We can't like take our foot off the gas pedal," and yet it happened again.
But they did. That's the crazy thing is, like, I look at the Packers and like they just got to score twice in the second half. And they win the football game. I mean, they were on pace, obviously, to score 42, but like they just felt like they were. I looked at it, and I still haven't looked up the facts, but you can probably help me. Niners game, when they played out in San Francisco, the Bears didn't force a punt. I know they got the pick six early, but I don't think they forced a punt the rest of the night, or there wasn't a punt. Against the Lions, I think they forced 2 punts because the Lions went up and down the field. They were good in the red zone, but they didn't force any punts. And then in the first half, against the Packers, they didn't force any. They forced 2 punts in 10 quarters, and then they punted. The Packers punted 4 straight times. I had a buddy say to me like, "Well, the Bears figured it out," and God bless. Yep, they played better defense in the second half, but that's shame on you, Packers, for not going for the jugular and playing in games like that. A little bit more about this game, and then because I said to people on Monday, and I was right. And I just texted and congratulated you. I didn't. You did at one point said like, don't argue with me. And I said, no, we're not going to argue, because like I did. I wanted Bears fans that I like to enjoy it. There's Bears fans I don't like, Tom Kakert being one of them, Tommy, if you're listening, that I don't care if they like it, but I wanted Bears fans that I like to enjoy it and all that kind of stuff. And I did that on Monday. The Bears are 3-3 this season when trailing by 10 or more with 5 minutes to go. So they've won 3 games this season when trailing by double figures with 5 minutes to go. The rest of the NFL is 3-158.
Yeah.
I can't bet against the Bears this weekend, but that's got to catch up with you at some point, right? And I mean that sincerely, because I don't know who to pick this week. Like, my football mind says the Rams, but the Bears just keep doing crazy things.
They didn't have a single offensive snap with the lead in those 3 games against the Packers.
It's crazy.
They didn't take one offensive snap with the lead in those 3 games against the Packers. I'm pretty sure that's right.
Probably right. That's probably right.
Like,
no, that's not true because no, you're right. Because once they went up 3-0, the Packers turned around and scored. So the next offensive snap would have been 7. Wow, that's wild.
Down 7-3.
All right, let's move on then to.
And then after they scored to take the lead, they didn't see the ball again.
I do want to talk about the Rams, but I want to do a fun game with you. You're a Chicago sports fan. You're a Cub fan. You're a Bears fan. You're, for the most part, a Bulls fan back in the day. And maybe not now so much, but you lived the championships like I did. I had a friend tell me, texting-wise, and I will continue to tell people he had too many soda pops that night, but he said that game was the greatest moment in Chicago sports history. So let's play a game. What's a bigger win for the Bears, or for Chicago sports fans? Let's just say that game we'll go against all of them, or the Arizona game where we let them off the damn hook. We knew who we were, but we let them off the hook.
Oh, it's this game.
Yeah,
because this was a playoff game. It was against the Packers. But man, that Arizona let them off the damn hook game is one of the most fun games in Bears history. It's that fourth quarter. It's so similar. That fourth quarter was so much fun to watch. And then you have the post reaction from Denny Green, which is like the icing on the cake. Rest in peace. But it's got to be this one purely because it's in the playoffs against your biggest rival.
How about this one? I think it was 2011. You can correct me. What year did they go to the Super Bowl? 2011?
Oh, 6. It was that year. It was the
okay. So the game against the Saints to go to the Super Bowl. What's a better moment as a Chicago sports fan? Saturday night beating that team for the second time in a month the way you did in the playoffs, or winning a game to go to the Super Bowl?
It's winning a game to go to the Super Bowl.
Ooh, okay.
I mean, look, the Bears won a game, and it's great. It's one game. They got to win 3 more. Like, they got to win 2 more to get to the Super Bowl. So, like, it's a great game. But if I were to say this was a bigger moment in Chicago sports history than being the Saints to go to the Super Bowl.
Where were you when the Bears won that game against the Saints to go to the Super Bowl?
I was sitting in my dorm room with a bunch of college buddies.
Remember that moment. Fans. Remember that moment.
I was up in Wisconsin.
Okay.
30 minutes.
Remember that moment and compare it to the way you felt on Saturday night. What's a better moment?
I think it still is the Saints one. I've never seen the Bears.
I'm not arguing with you.
Super Bowl. I just think, again, magnitude wise, this game's a great moment in Chicago Bears history, but it's a playoff game. And if I were to say that this game is more important or is a bigger moment than going to the Super Bowl, then I prove all those Packers fans right who say that, the Packers game is the Bears fan Super Bowl.
That's true. Not. That's true.
Like, it's a huge game, and I'm so glad they beat the Packers. I've been so sick and tired of that, but it's a wild card weekend game. They've got 2 more to get to the Super Bowl.
That's a really good point. I'm crossing out the Bears Super Bowl in '85. 1, you weren't alive, so you can't compare the moments. And 2, obviously a Super Bowl is a Super Bowl. So with that question, the Bulls 91 championship or beating the Packers on Saturday night.
Oof.
And I'll say this: I think it's a Bears city.
I think it's a Bears
city. So go ahead.
I think it's a Bears city, and I think
good game, isn't it? My game that I'm making right now. It's a good question.
It is.
We're having fun.
I think it's this one because it is a Bears city.
Yeah.
And I know where you're going with it. I think I know where you're going with this next question. But
98 Bulls.
Well,
Michael Jordan,
yeah,
the sick game.
I got one more in there too.
Oh, there's 2 games left. So the Bulls,
so
Michael Jordan.
I would say this is a greater moment than the 91 win. The 98 one.
Yeah.
I think the 98 one's better because it was Jordan's last. You had the flu game before, but it was Jordan's. The last game that everyone knew he was retiring for the first or second time, and he hits that shot over Byron Russell to win their 6th title, and then he rides off into the sunset until he comes back a few years later. That was a bigger moment. I still remember where I was watching that game.
Me too.
6 so like that one is definitely a bigger moment than this one.
All right, last but not least, you know where I'm going. We'll go over my shoulder to those guys right there. 2016, and that's when I got the text from my buddy, and he's a Sox fan, which means he's slow already. If you know what I mean. But no, I'm teasing. But he said, he goes, and I said the Cubs World Series in 2016, Game 7 is in my opinion, the best moment in Chicago sports history. And he's like, but you got to remember, only 66% of the town is rooting for him. The other third's rooting for. And I said, that's silly. That's not what the percentages is. It's a Cubs town. It's not that high, but that's cute. I'll ask you, 2016, Game 7, rain delay, dribbler to Bryant, throws across to Rizzo. That moment, young Bobby Metcalf going crazy, or Saturday night beating that team, those Packers, and the way you did it?
So I do understand what he's saying because it is we just said a minute ago, it is a Bears town. When the Bears are good, that city is a different beast. So it is a Bears town. That said, the Cubs was to win a World Series. Again, we're talking about a playoff game. This was to win a World Series. It was the World Series that had to be won 108 years after blowing that lead in the extra innings. That wasn't just a great moment for Chicago sports history. That was a moment in sports history, United States sports history.
Yep.
That's one of the biggest. Everyone talks about that was the World Series.
One of the best Game 7s, in my opinion, ever. Just because of the storyline you just told, and the lead, and the comeback, and the rain delay, and the extra innings. I think you're right. So I'm sorry to jump in. You're going Game 7.
The Cubs were down 3-1 in that series.
Mm-hmm.
It's that one. If the Bears go on to win a Super Bowl this year, I may change my tune. I might say that because of how important this game was and the way they did it, it might move up. But
not if, but when they win the Super Bowl, Bobby. Come on now.
Yeah. Again, they've won one game. They've won one game of the postseason. Amazing. I love the win, but I get ahead of ourselves. Oh my God, this is the greatest moment in Chicago Bears history because it's not Chicago sports history.
Yeah, I will say this, and I cried, I think, happy tears. I should point out happy tears. There's probably other games I cried bad tears, but happy tears for the 2016 World Series. And then honestly, the Lions' first playoff victory a couple of years ago that broke their long drought without one too. I think those are the 2 times that I got emotional and in a good way, and not I can't believe my team lost again, because I'm used to that plenty. So.
And you know what? And I will, because I know White Sox fans will chime on this. I'll say that the White Sox World Series win. Is it 05?
I had it on there. Yeah, it's 05. I didn't even go there because honestly, I don't. Just because it's not a White Sox city. It's just not.
It is not. But again, for Chicago, and that wasn't breaking the curse that the Black Sox curse. It was a good storyline. It's funny when you watch people that aren't White Sox fans. I'm not a White Sox fan, but you talk about national media, and they always go through that list of Chicago sports championships, and they always seem to forget about the 05 White Sox. It's crazy.
Funny because I grew up here in the Quad Cities, and I didn't hate the White Sox. In fact, I kind of enjoyed them because when the Cubs weren't on WGN, they were on WGN, or you could watch them on I saw enough of them. It wasn't until I got to college and I met my buddy Pete that was I think he hated the Cubs more than he liked the White Sox, and he'll probably watch this and yell at me and say that's not true, but I never realized how much the White Sox hate the Cubs, and that annoyed me. And then I remember last little White Sox thing, we went up in college to a White Sox Twins game. I'm just going for fun. I'm a Cub fan, but I'm watching, and it's a big game against the Twins. And there was a big moment in the game. I think there was bases loaded, 1 out, and the Sox turned a 6-4-3 double play to get out of the inning to keep the lead. And the 3 guys ahead of me jumped up and said, "Yeah, F the Cubs," and started giving high fives. And I looked at they're not even playing. And I looked at my buddies. I'm like, why? And he's like, "Well, you don't understand how much we hate the Cubs." I'm like, that's like the Cubs playing the Cardinals, a division rival, and me yelling that about the White Sox. It was just weird to me. I know that was off subject, but a little rant.
That said, since you said the F the White Sox, all these Packers fans who are all whining about Ben Johnson saying F the Packers in the post game, like, get out of here.
Are you? I know, I couldn't believe it. You should.
I had to sit there and watch Aaron Rodgers do a discount double check on me for 15 years. I had to watch him scream, "I still effing own you. All my life I've owned you," and got you see all you guys going, "Oh, that's awesome. That's the coolest thing ever." And the second the script flips on this rivalry and Ben Johnson tries to inject a little bit of heat and hatred into it, they say, "Oh, he's a terrible coach, classless." And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, no, I completely. You should hate your rivals with every fiber of your being. I do that. I don't like my rivals. I'm not enjoying the Bears season one bit. But I do. Like I said, and I'm genuinely serious for people like yourself, Bobby, and other our Bears fans. Chad Leistikow I mention all the time. Scott Weiss, Wheezy, people like that. Like, that's awesome. I'm pumped for them. Others I don't love too much that text me every time the Lions lose and stuff, but that's not you. Before we go, because I'm running short on time, let's look quickly ahead to Sunday. Yeah. Like, I'm not trying to be that guy, but if you look at this game on paper, like, the Rams should win the game. And I think they're one of the most complete teams in football with their passing attack with Stafford, Nakua, Devontae Adams if he's healthy. They run the ball, good offensive line, Kyron Williams, Blake Corum, and I think their defense is really good too. I think they're the most complete team. I'm struggling picking the Rams because of what the Bears do, but it feels like they do that kind of stuff. I think the North was overrated, if that makes any sense. I don't think it was as good as everybody thought it was. I think I think the West was really good, and the West have 3 teams that are just different in that conference. I don't care what I'm picking. I'll do it later in the week. Your thoughts, give me a pick and why on Sunday night.
So if the game's played on paper, I think the Rams put up 50 points. It's a blowout. And, the Bears get incredibly humbled. It's in Soldier Field, so the Rams are having to travel out, out east to where it's cold. I don't know what the temperature's forecast is yet.
Really cold.
The Rams did. Yeah, so, that right there is a big field leveler. They struggled against the Panthers. I don't think the Panthers are anywhere on the class offensively as the Bears, even though they had, Bryce Young had a nice year. And then you've got the X factor of just what the Bears have done all season, and you can't ever count them out. Even if they're down 25 at halftime, I wouldn't say I can't count them out at halftime. I feel like, I don't know, I could see it being a track meet, even though how cold it is. I could see it being like a 49ers type game where it was just like neither one team can stop each other. I could see the Bears losing by, like I said, by 45. And I can see the Bears winning it. This team is so hard to predict. If you ask me, though, if I have to make a pick.
You got to make a pick, Bobby. People are watching this show with their sports book open, and they're saying, give it to me, Bobby. Give me the final score so I can win some money. What's it going to be?
It's at home. I will say Chicago.
Pick with your heart. Picking with your head.
If they had to go out west and play in LA, I would give them no shot. None.
I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I agree with you. It's Wednesday. I don't know. I'll wait till Friday to make a pick. I thought the Packers were going to beat them, and everything I thought in my head that made sense in the football world happened. and then the second half happened, and I was like, okay, there you go.
I didn't want to play the Packers. I wanted them to lose to the Lions, and I wanted the Eagles to lose. Match played would have been San Fran. Yeah, San Fran. I much rather would want to play San Fran than Green Bay. Green Bay scared the crap out of me because of how they won it 3 weeks ago. I figured the Packers would be ticked off and trying. And I wasn't surprised that happened early. So no, I didn't want to play the Packers for first week.
And last one before I let you go, and I'll leave it with this: as someone who's been thought of to not like the Bears, I was rooting for the Niners because I think the Bears beat the Eagles. I think they were lost. I think they were. I think the Rams. I picked before this whole thing started, Bills and Rams in the Super Bowl. I think it's Josh Allen's year. If he doesn't make it to the Super Bowl, shame on him with all those quarterbacks that aren't there. And then I just think the Rams are the most complete team, and coaching wise too. Like Sean McVay's won it in the past and all those kind of things. But hey, we're up against it. Go ahead.
I'm done on my Caleb. Any criticisms I have of Caleb? Yeah, he needs to be more accurate. Yeah, blah blah blah. But like, I'm not going to criticize the guy anymore. He's the Bears quarterback for the next 8 to 10 years, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. What he's did that cemented him as a legacy dude in Chicago forever. Sometimes that's not going to be for the best, but that's for a different day and a different argument. Bobby, enjoy the game on Sunday. I appreciate you. We'll catch up soon. All right, thanks, bud.
All right, buddy. That is Bobby Metcalf. I love talking. We had so many conversations back in the WQED newsroom. And forget that. Like, I've known Bobby when he's covering the area, Sports Writer Rise, forever. So we had plenty of late night arguments until 2 o'clock in the morning. And I can see Bobby smiling in the screen down below me. It was great to catch up with Bobby. We got more to get to. You watch an OTA on a Wednesday right here in the Quad Cities.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday, January 14th. Thank you guys for joining us and participating wherever you are, whatever form or platform you're on, whether it's YouTube, X, the audio streaming, podcasts, all of those kind of things. Our viewers in Central Iowa as well. Thank you guys so much for making the show part of your Wednesday. It's been a fun Wednesday. We kick things off with the one and only Scott Dochterman from The Athletic. I have gotten to work with Scott on the Iowa beat and doing what I used to do for a long time. And that's a guy that I have had the utmost respect for a long time. And since starting this show, people like himself and Tom Kakert and Chad Leistico, Tyler Tatchman, people like that, and I'm missing a bunch, so don't yell at me, but that have taken time in their busy schedules doing their own things to chat with us here on the show is greatly appreciated. And Doc's as good as it gets. So go check that out. We talked about his Bears, of course, but the Iowa transfer portal, really good stuff with that. And I think that we all kind of agree that Iowa's done a good job of targeting the players they want, good players at positions of need, and finding players that aren't one-year rentals. They're 2-3 year players that will continue to grow and develop under Kirk Ferentz and his staff. And Doc mentioned a great point. Mark Gronowski, Iowa fans would love to have that guy back for one more year. But if you talk to him after game 2 or 3, they were ready to move on already. So to see the way he grew and got comfortable after, maybe the second half of the year, and knowing that these players will get to do the same and then come back for more years. Really good insight from Doc. So go check out Doc. Jake Brend, as always, on a Wednesday, fantastic, talking Cyclones with us. We always appreciate Jake. Jake's probably driving back from Lawrence as we speak, so hopefully he drives well, and the Cyclones will look to get back on track at Cincinnati coming up this weekend. And then Bobby Metcalf in the last segment. I miss Bobby. I just got done saying I miss Bobby because we had so many great debates, whether he was with the Quad City Times and I was out and about, and we'd chat after the shows and his deadline, or, our year, I think we spent maybe a little less than a year at WQAD together. Bobby's one of my favorite people. So talking Bears with him was a ton of fun. Tomorrow on the show, the Iowa Hawkeyes play tonight. Men's basketball at Purdue. Really tough game for Iowa. We'll see how they do, and we'll break it all down tomorrow with Nicholas Baer right here on OTA. Also tomorrow on the show, the biggest Indiana fan I know, as the college football championship game is now just 5 days away, 6 days away, whatever it is, next Monday. Don't make me do math. James Zahara, one of my favorite people in the whole world, fantastic chief meteorologist over at WQAD, and huge Indiana fan, will join us. We'll talk about the Hoosiers, as he would say. Also, I want to talk to him about the weather at Soldier Field this weekend for the Bears. It's supposed to be getting cold, really cold here in the Quad Cities, and then obviously in Chicago as well. So we'll talk about that as well. So Nicholas Baer, James Zahara, and a bunch more tomorrow. Friday, we're going to talk with actually, I'm not sure yet. So I'm going to be quiet about who we're talking about. We have a jam-packed show on Friday to get to as well, and then we'll hit the weekend, and we'll be ready to rock and roll and enjoy a great weekend and Monday of football as well. So I want to thank you guys for joining us today. Our sponsors are awesome, amazing, all those kind of things, and we do appreciate it. So that's it for today's OTA. We will see you guys back here again tomorrow.